All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the KRAYON Studio Live. And it's such a pleasure to have with us the charming actor, author, and my team calls her a super mom, Sonali Bendre. Thank you so much for joining in, Sonali. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Listen, you're being very, very kind. It's my pleasure. And I didn't know I was called Super Mom. Now, that's a lot of pressure to live up to, but yeah.
I think I qualified to call you that because I've had the opportunity of spending a lot of time with Ranveer when I was in Jiffany last year. And according to me, the definition of a super mom is the kind of, what do you call, qualities that come into the child. I think they imbibe a lot from the mothers. And I think Ranveer is such a fantastic young man. And I can give a lot of credit to you. Of course, Goldie as well, but I think you do qualify being there.
Pre-teens, I think the test starts now. It's a whole different ball game when they become teenagers. And when he had gone with you, I think it was just before he hit his teeth, and now he's a full-blown teenager.
So I've been a massive fan of yours growing up, and I think you're one of the most, genuinely beautiful women out there in all senses, on screen, behind it, and now in the new role that you play as a creator, as an author, as well as managing the home. So Sonali, first of all, thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of the jury for the International Kids Film Festival. And I'm going to talk about the festival today. I want to talk to you a lot about you and your journey as a child growing up and your relationship with films. Because the idea of the International Kids Film Festival is to inculcate in children a certain kind of discipline in the kind of content they watch. Because I think one of the biggest disciplines that our children need to learn today is the discipline of what kind of exposure they have on the screen. It's a fact that everyone is exposed to the screen. I think that's the discipline. So we're going to talk a little about that. So let me begin by starting off. How was your childhood? And talk to us about your school in particular.
Well, I came from a childhood where there was no film watching, was not a part of my childhood at all. In fact, I came from a household where we didn't even get film magazines, and it was not something that was very. We were very aware of also. So we were introduced to books and entertainment. So I really come from where movies were really not something that they thought was. Well, how should I say? Seeing or watching. And hence, I think somewhere we grow up and then actor, and then to have a child who is very interested in movies and in the visual medium, generation that we are going through, I straddle two different eras in that sense.
Right.
So, there are a lot of takes that I have on it that come from an exposure to a childhood where there were no movie.
Right. So I think you've had a very typical Indian upbringing in that sense, where a lot of us were brought up with, studies being primarily, and, the screens those days were very different. We actually went to cinema theaters or it was television, and it was not the most looked up to kind of a medium. And then you got into acting, and the whole world knows about that part of your story, right? What I'm more interested in is you and your journey as a mom these days. You just mentioned that screen is an integral part of our lives, right? And it's a different generation. So what are your conversations at home? Because you're an absolute filmy family in that sense now, with both Goldie and you coming from hardcore film background. So what do you think are the positives of Ranveer growing up in this environment? And what are probably some of the things which you feel maybe not desirable for his growing up years?
Well, I do still, because of the book lover that I am, I do feel that I would love it and There are times when I do want my son to read more than what he does.
Okay.
Though he does read, it's not like he doesn't. But of course, as a mother, I do feel that if he could read a little. But I say that as a parent, let me go about this as a parent. As a parent, when I discovered my son was not into reading as much, and the time he was growing up, there was this huge competition with the screen. And what would happen is that, books can't live up to the competition that a screen gives you, the visual medium, so to say. And Ranveer was more attracted and has been more attracted to the visual medium than to reading. It also comes, if I could share it, I'm sure Goldie will be okay with me sharing this, but Goldie has what you would call a learning disorder called dyslexia, which is very, very, very common. It's really not such a big deal today. But in my generation and in Goldie's, a lot of students, and we've all been through it, would be thought that, oh, because the way the education system was, and if you couldn't read or if you didn't know your spellings, that means you were dumb. So there were absolutely incredibly intelligent children who were labeled dumb in that generation. And that was really, really sad because, you take a person's self-confidence down. There's so much more that they can do, which I think today with visual medium and understanding what dyslexia is, and there are various other learning disorders, you understand that it doesn't need to stop you and it's absolutely okay. It's not such a big deal. It's just the way you teach them, and they grow up to be as intelligent, as fantastic as anybody else. In fact, I feel that sometimes they grow up to have more IQ than others.
Absolutely true. And when you talked about dyslexia, Sonali, it was many years later when I became an engineer, I got into being an educator. That's when I realized I had something called as dyscalculia, which was a disability with numbers and math. I was brilliant with language. And it was only then that I discovered. So you are absolutely right that this labeling that happens around, at a very early age can be very detrimental. And you talked about your passion, which is about books. How did that happen? Not a lot of people out there actually associate a glamorous Sonali with books. And I know your love for books and the amount of passion you have. Can you just talk us through that?
So for me, books have been my best friends because my childhood was spent all across India. Every 2 years, we were in a new city, new place. My father had a transferable job. So I never had childhood friends. It was me, my sisters, and the family, and books. So for me, books are more like a security blanket. It's something that you carry. When I went into a new school, I carried some books with me in my bag, always storybooks, where you got time in recess, you didn't know people, you just opened the book and you started reading, and you just felt like, okay, I'm going to be okay. I have my friend with me. You didn't feel left out. I think it helped me deal with peer pressure also because I could always go to my book. But having said that, I would say, like I said, that Ranveer, who is more of a visual medium person, and then I would feel that, oh my God, my son is not reading enough. What am I going to do about it? And then I discovered that I can treat the visual medium in the same way, the way my parents treated books for us. Every time that we felt lost or we were given books. So I started saying that, okay, he likes the visual medium more. So how do we the point is that he gets stories is what we are trying to tell. If he reads it or he sees this via visual medium, it doesn't matter. So what matters is the content. Hence, what is it that my son is going to see is what is more important rather than labeling all films or everything visual as something which is waste of time. A lot of it would like to call them. I know I come from a Hindi film industry where they say, oh, it's all song and dance and just entertainment. But I do feel entertainment teaches us a lot of life lessons. And sometimes, be it lessons of morality, be it lessons of good over evil, there are so many other small, small emotions. Every human being, or as a child, I would say my 15-year-old today doesn't have to have gone through every gamut of emotion. But because he has seen stories and visuals, in movies that talk about different kinds of emotions, he can identify with them without actually having to completely go through them. So, if you've seen what are the effects of, say, drugs on a teenager, a story where you can see where that child's life goes tells my son a lot more. I think when he went with you to Gifoni at the film festival, the movies that he saw over there, and he came back, and there's suddenly a certain amount of knowledge that my son has, which, no amount of me just telling him would have taught him. And it was going there, having that experience, spending the time with those children, living with another family. It was just the most amazing experience that you guys gave him at that Gifoni Film Festival. So for me, that just taught him what would have taken me probably 10 years to teach him. And it was just that one experience that gave him that.
That's fantastic. It's really nice. You've actually touched upon quite a few points which I'm going to pick up. I think for all those who are listening in, Sonali is talking about her son Ranveer, who was a part of the child jury for the International Kids Film Festival last year. And he, along with 3 other students, had an opportunity to go to the world's oldest film festival, Gifoni. And Sonali, if we get an opportunity, we should visit that again, because it's just absolutely endearing to see an entire 500-600-year-old town, and the entire town is a film festival. Every house, every nook and corner is celebrating good storytelling from across the world. We'll talk about that in our next question, but you picked on a very important point and actually laid to rest a very important debate, because there's a big debate happening these days that children are losing the habit of reading and they're very exposed to screens. While it is a changing phenomena, and let's accept it that children and the screen are a lot more attracted to each other. But you mentioned that it's the story, it's the messages, it's the quality of content that children need to be watching. And that's what is very important. So having been in this industry for such a long time, I have a question. Why is it that, especially in India, in spite of being the world's largest filmmaking market, we got Hollywood, Tollywood, Kannada, Telugu, Malayalam, Bengali, Odia, Bhojpuri, Patani, so many film industries. Why do we make such little good content for children? Why do you think that happens according to you?
So I think with the movie making is an art, but it is also a commercial art. And I do feel that, can you hear me?
Quite clearly.
Okay, because I've lost the visual to you. So is this okay? Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you. I can hear you.
Okay, so I've lost the visual to you.
Let me just check for a moment with my team if it's all fine.
Okay, as long as...
Yeah.
Okay, as long as it's recording for you,
Yes, it is.
So I think it's also a commercial art, and what happens is that what is not going to you're not going to put money into something if you're not going to make money on it. So with the whole thing of movies are entertainment, not really good for children to watch, I don't think we are making enough movies for children which are telling you stories which the children should know about. And that's why the festival that you have right now, I think, is a step in an amazingly right direction, because the more festivals of this kind are held and the more people are exposed to the fact that movies needn't be just entertainment, or let me put it as mindless entertainment, but it can be entertainment that teaches you things, that shows you new things, and from which the kids can learn new things also. So I think as if we can kind of get that message across, there will be more of these movies made. There was a time in Indian movies where there were only certain kind of movies that got made because there were big theaters and you had to cater to all kinds of audience. Then it came to a point where multiplexes came in and different kinds of stories started, people started telling different kinds of stories. Now you have OTT platforms and suddenly there is so much more that is happening. So I think times are changing and more with the way the screen time is being used, with the way everybody is on gadgets all the time. I think the time for telling more and more stories to children, and hence children's movies, will begin to happen now. Because like I said, it's commercial.
Absolutely true. And Sonali, very recently I published an article and I was talking about the importance of visual content for children. And one of the key things that children need to learn up growing today is cultural sensitivity. Because you and I have no idea where our kids are going to grow up to be. It is predicted that 1/4 of the world's working population, not India's, 1/4 of the world's working population in 2040 will be Indians. So our children are going to be there all over the world. So we need to expose them and sensitize them to world cultures, to world stories, to world issues. And films are one of the best ways of doing it. And on the other hand, the way we communicate primarily today, and especially the younger ones, is through visuals, through videos, through photographs, through memes, through infographics. And yet, most schools are still teaching children how to read and write. While I'm not debating whether reading and writing is important, I think we have to add visual communication to children as little as kindergarten. And we need to teach our children to tell visually stories and express themselves, because that's going to be a massive skill.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. There are a couple of things in this that I would like to mention. That, we are, whatever we do, we are during what we would call technological revolution. Is that what we would call this? But our education system...
Digital revolution. Knowledge revolution. Yeah.
Right. So, but our schooling is not even of industrial revolution. It's of agricultural economy. That's where our school is. See, our holidays are based on the seasons. This was during when, agriculture was your main way and main income. But we have moved very far away. Not just industrial, technological, we are in the digital age. But our education is not moving as fast as these ages have moved. And so in today's day and age, we have to understand that artificial intelligence is already doing a lot of work. And human brain, our education system is, especially the Indian education system, is built towards geniuses who are great in what I would call the STEM system, science and technology and engineering and mathematics. And as soon as you're not doing that and you're into arts, you're not so intelligent. That is the conversation we are having now, which I think is again an old conversation, because, we as an IQ human beings are not going to be able to match the artificial intelligence. So what is it that keeps the humanity in us? It's the EQ, the emotional quotient, not the IQ. And hence we need our children to definitely have a very high EQ, and the EQ can be increased or can be cultivated, and can be, I don't think it can be kind of nurtured by visual medium, by telling stories, by the art forms, and hence movies that the children watch are going to be very, very important. About that?
Right, I just... was that your phone? We're fine.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. Is that clear for you?
Hello?
I can hear you, Sonali. Can you hear me?
I think I've lost... should I rejoin?
Yes, if you can. I am with you online, but I can see you, I can hear you, Sonali. Can you? All right, I think Sonali is just going to rejoin us, so just give us a moment. In the meantime, for those of you who are listening in, Sonali is a part of our junior panel.
Yes.
Okay, hey, welcome back.
just when we are talking about technology, and here there is a glitch. Sorry about that, guys.
Yes, and I
So
think
let me
it's something we're all getting used to now. These lags.
yes. So just to reiterate, what I wanted to say was that I feel that our education system has been more based on IQ, which, artificial intelligence, you're not going to be able to match up to. So what is going to keep our humanity is the EQ. And that comes from arts, that comes from creativity, that comes from stories. And as our kids are growing up in a visual world, visual storytelling, which is films, is going to be extremely important.
So, Sonali, what you just mentioned is so apt, and that's the biggest reason why we organize the film festival. And one of the challenges that we face, especially with educators, with parents, is the fact, they have this point saying that the children are already doing a lot of screen time, and
Right.
why would they watch an international film festival like this? For me, it is as simple as saying that when we were growing up, we had a lot of books that we studied, and yet our library had a lot of books. We never complained about that, right? So now we just need to accept the fact that screen is a way of interaction, is a way of life. While the screen time for academics is different, the screen time for watching well made films is very different. So let me move on and ask you a couple of questions. Remember, I started off by saying you're a super mom. So here are a couple of questions for the supermom. What is that one or two qualities that you would really like Ranveer to grow up with? And what is you and Goldie as a very sensitive parenting couple? What are your goals? I mean, what are the qualities that you would want Ranveer to have above everything else?
Well, it's a very hard question, and when as parents you look at various choices of how do you educate your kid and what do you teach your kid, and then also in today's day and age, when like as a mother, I realize that I cannot keep up with my son where technology is concerned, and I cannot police him. You know, what if I put a password, he's going to be able to hack that password and get on with it. So who am I fooling with that,
Right.
So the point I realized early on is that there is no, of course, there is an age where you put the passwords in when they're really, really young. And at that time, you really start and pray and really start asking your children to be a good human being and just really, really hope and teach them the right and the wrong to as best as you can, and hope that the child will be able to and keep giving them various instructions in various ways as to what could be the right way and what could be the wrong way, so that the child starts making the right choices. Because there's no way you can police the child and say that don't go on to this side, don't go on to that side. So it came to a point where there, and not just me, I know many parents who are my friends and their kids who would tell their parents that, I can't hear that song because there is something called because it is adults, and there are a younger version of the song. So they would say, "Oh, we can't hear that. We listen to this part of the song." So children do make that choices, So the moment you can teach them and you can be, it takes longer, it's harder, but if you can include them in the growing up. And in this, I think beautiful stories, and for me, a lot of movies and watching movies has helped me, watching movies together has helped me teach my son a lot of these things, because certain things, like I said, you don't want your child to go through every experience himself to learn from it. There have to be certain experience that you go through as a family together, watching on a screen. You're still going through that experience, but in a safe way. And after that movie watching, you as family can actually discuss it and say, hey, did you see this can happen? And that's why we need you to be careful. Or there are times when I tell my son that I don't know what to do with this. Can you help me with this? Because you know technology more. Suddenly I'm making him responsible for what is happening in that front. And that so far has worked for me. Now my son is a teenager. My fingers are crossed. You never know what happens tomorrow, but all we can do is pray that it all falls into place. But there's only that much that we can do as parents. And this is where I feel teaching lessons of life is far more important than my son knowing his tables, especially in today's day. For me, those lessons are taught by movies like this. There are times when I know my son wants to watch mindless television, or can I say certain mindless influencer things that they like to watch on YouTube. And there are times, so then we've come to, it's like a bargain, and we've come to a point where we say, okay, you're exhausted, you want to do some mind numbing viewing, do it. Then these are the times when we are going to watch this documentary, or we are going to watch this movie, and then we select. And then there are certain wish lists that we prepare as a family, where we sit down and we say that, okay, these are the ones that we would like to watch. And then he says, yeah, I don't mind watching this, I don't mind watching this. And otherwise, there are certain topics that they're doing in school, and we pick out documentaries on that topics and we watch. Or there are certain topics that we can't explain to him, but certain documentaries or even series or even movies are talking about that topic. So you research those and you kind of say that, okay, but as a family, we are going to watch this movie in the movie watching time, because this is what we want to talk about and this is what we want you to know. So it's very definitely, and the movies for children as a tool, as a Goldie and me as parents have very clearly have used it as an educational tool for a child.
That's so awesome. And Sonali, you and Goldie had both the knowledge and the reach to curate those films for Ranveer. And for all those parents and schools that can't do it, that's exactly what we've done with IKFF. So this year alone, we have 150 films from 40 countries in 25 languages. We have issues like body image. We have issues like LGBT being addressed to a child. It's
Right.
not the adult version, but you need to talk to children about those issues. Issues like environment. We have films from countries which people have only heard of. For me, what gives me the joy is children sitting and watching a film, say from Cuba or from Colombia. We've only heard of those countries.
Right.
But when you see real stories made by those filmmakers from that country, it's just an amazing experience for our children. And first of all, congratulations to you. You're probably one of the first film person, because I interact with a lot of film personalities, who's actually gone out of your way to curate this film viewing experience for Ranveer. And you mentioned a point, and I have a wonderful, experience to share on that. You said that he's just getting into his teens, and you have no idea how he is going to be during his teenage days. What I've learned, I have only a 2-year-old, but my experience with kids is 20 years. So if your foundation is really strong, children are like trees with a very strong foundation. Teenage is like a storm. And all children go through that storm. And they will bend. There will be that breeze which will shake them up. But the foundation, if it is stronger, and that's the foundation you've already laid, right? And at some point of time, when that storm is over, he's going to stand back upright, taller than the trees that brought him up. And that's what's going to happen.
I hope so.
Absolutely. So let's move on now to your role with the International Kids Film Festival. Can you tell us, why did you choose to? I'm sure a lot of different organizations, different events must be approaching you by the day, asking you to be a part of it. Why did you choose to be a part of the jury for IKFF?
So, 2 years back, I went through, I was in New York. I was going through my treatment for cancer, and Ranveer would come and go. And it was during this time that, honestly, when Ranveer got the opportunity to be on the jury for your film festival, and for us, it was a great opportunity to keep him occupied, because I was in and out. So Goldie was basically on 2 continents and doing single parenting. Goldie and me have a wonderful support system, but parents are parents, and I was being a hands-on parent. I was not going to be there as much as before, and suddenly that was a difference. So for Goldie and me, it was a great opportunity for Ranveer to be busy doing something productive and educational, because we've always seen good movies as something that is going to educate him. And so that was, we encouraged him to take that on. So when he would come to me in his vacation, and he was on the jury at that point, and he was watching these movies, which he was going to be rating. And I remember this was the thing we were doing together, because lying there on my bed, he would be watching it, and I was watching those movies with him. And they were fantastic. I was hooked, and it was amazing to sit and watch those movies with him. And I said, my God, I had no idea. Like you said, there were countries from which the children were sending movies from. I had no idea they made films. So here there were kids making these movies, and they were wonderful stories that these kids were sending. And it was so amazing to see what these young minds were doing. And quite frankly, I think if I'm going to be on the jury, it's a selfish reason that I want to be on the jury, and I said yes to it, because I do want to. I know the caliber of films that are going to come into your film festival, because I saw what my son was judging, and it was absolutely amazing. So I know it's going to be top notch. So I'm really looking forward to watching some really top notch movies made by young minds. And the selfish reason for this is that these are the minds which are going to be of Ranveer's age group, which are making these movies. And for me as a parent, it's going to give me an insight into what today's young mind is thinking and what is today's young mind going through. Because, you know, what they're going through with the way they are exposed to, the kind of exposure that these kids have, we can't even fathom what they're going through. So I'm just looking at, as a parent, I'm looking at this as an experience that's going to educate me about what my teenage son's age group is going through. What are these going through? So that's my selfish reason for saying yes to it. I'm going to be educating.
I'm happy for what.
I'm going to be fantastic.
Whatever the reason, I'm glad that you're there as a part of the jury. It's great to have you. And also, it was very heartening to note that you were watching our films in probably the most critical time, and we brought some cheer to you at that point of time. I'm so happy to hear that. I didn't know about that part. Anne didn't tell me this part of the story, but really happy to know that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
No,
and let's move on to the...
The visual for you is a bald me in a bed under a duvet with my son next to me on a laptop, both of us watching your movies while he was judging them. Fantastic.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to have been a part of that journey and brought some joy at that time. We couldn't send you flowers, but I think we did better by sending you films.
Absolutely.
So great. So let me ask you a couple of other questions which are related to filmmaking, right? So what, according to you, is a well-made film for children?
Where a well-made film for children is the one which talks in the child's voice, rather than treating the child like a... So I've never treated my child as a lesser human. A lot of them talk down to children. A lot of people talk down to children. And I remember, because my son used to have an issue where, like, if he went swimming or he went for any sort of a coaching, and he would say, but why do they talk to me so rudely? Why do they talk down to me? Because Goldie and me have always spoken to him as a mini adult, or as a human being, or as an individual, let me say, who deserves respect and who can understand things. And I think he has lived up to that, more or less. And I think the movies that talk to children in their own voice, not talk down to them, are the ones that are well-made movies for children. Other than, of course, the fact that if they topics that are more that are interesting to them, which are time-sensitive, which talk about what they're going through at this point of time in life, all that comes in. Of course, it represents. Movies do represent the society we live in. And hence, of course, the society that these children are going through, if that is represented, of course, that makes a difference. But mainly the voice, I feel. If it is in the voice that is not talking down to them, then I think it's a well-made.
Sure. So, thank you. I think that's a very interesting perspective of what a good children's film should be like. You know, a lot of times when... I tell people that we have films in 25 languages, and then they're like, oh my God, my child does not understand the language. And wait a minute, children's films are made beyond languages. right? The format of storytelling is absolutely universal, and what I've experienced, and which is what I love about my film festival and what we curate. It's not just in Bollywood or in Hollywood that there are good filmmakers. There are absolutely brilliant filmmakers. When I'm saying 40 countries, I don't even remember the 40 countries now of this year's festival. And all of them tell different stories. And here's another very interesting thing about IKFF Sonali is we also curate short films from India.
Right.
And surprisingly, Bengali, Marathi, Malayalam, Tamil, Kannada, Odia, there are fabulous short films that are made and our children never watch it. The sad reality of the world you and I are living in is you have the OTT platforms which have a certain genre of content.
Right.
You have the YouTube which has a certain algorithm which pushes content.
Right.
So the best content never comes up to you.
Absolutely.
Right? Of course, the big screens are kind of passe in the lockdown, but even when they are open, they have only the blockbusters that are coming there. So that means the well-made children's films don't have a platform at all. And I think it's a rarity, especially for audiences in India, to get an exposure to films like this, which tell stories in a language that children appreciate.
Absolutely.
Right. So, what are you expecting from this year's film festival? Have you had an opportunity to watch any films already, or are you looking for?
I'm going to start. In fact, I go on a road trip, and this is the plan on this road trip is to watch these movies.
Here's the best part. Because the film festival is completely online, you can just download the KRAYON app and all the films from November 20th to December 20th. Unlike in the past, it's not a short festival, it's a 1 month festival. Right. And at leisure, you can watch them. And if ever you have a smart TV around, you can even, just cast it on the larger screen or on your pad. You can watch them. And my dream, Sonali, is to actually curate this as an exclusive children's film content platform. So we're going to start with the film festival now. And my dream next year is to launch this as a proper children's OTT platform as well.
Fantastic. I think we do need one of those platforms because it all gets, all your platforms have a kids version, and a lot of times there are interesting things, no doubt about it, but not something that is curated, thinking how it is going to affect a young mind. And I think that is what from the experience that my son has had, the team that you have, and how you guys curate the movies that you do, I do think there is a lot of thought that goes into how it's going to affect the young minds. And that is the wonderful part about the festival that you have and the team that you have and what you guys are doing. And the once again, to tell you why, like you said, why is it that I'm agreeing to do it? I think you guys gave my son a fantastic experience, and I'm really thankful for that, because I don't think it's about you can't pay to get these kind of experiences. It's not about that. So it was just amazing that this sort of a thing came my child's way. And if I can help spread this message of how much this content can help other parents and other children, I would love to do it, because I think all the kids should go through and enjoy what you are providing, because my son really learned a lot from it. And we as family really kind of gained from this. So this is just...
Thank you so much, because it kind of reiterates what we're trying to do, because it's an uphill task. Because today it's so much easier to convince a parent that there is this online physics and maths, go and learn. There is this online coding and you can, transform a child.
Everybody is going mad about coding. Like they discovered some new, oh my God, El Dorado, there's gold here. I mean, it's like coding has been around for a while. Suddenly everybody's discovering it. But again, they don't, what I would like to emphasize on is that coding is, again, there is artificial intelligence, which is definitely part of our lives. It's not something that's going to happen tomorrow. It's part of our lives. And human mind, beyond a point, cannot compete with artificial intelligence, and we should not be trying to. What is humanity is emotional intelligence, and that is what we have, and that is what, when you're creative, when storytelling, lessons of life, lessons of morality is what emotional intelligence is all about. Our children are going to be in a The world is global. The whole planet has turned into a village because of internet. And in this proximity, our children can be in any corner of the world tomorrow. They're going to be global citizens. And for global citizens to have empathy, to understand various cultures, to understand diversity, emotional intelligence is very, very important. To be able to work in different cultures, in different organizations, emotional intelligence is important. And I think this kind of storytelling, viewing these kind of cinema, is going to help you increase your emotional intelligence or strengthen your child's emotional intelligence.
You said that absolutely right, Sonali. It is said that two of the biggest change makers on the planet, one is technology, two is migration. In a world of technological changes, emotion is what is going to differentiate and not information. It's the emotion. And in a world that's moving, cultural integration and understanding the world and stories in a visual form are one of the best ways of doing it. You've been a mother who encourage reading as well as you encourage watching at the same way. And I think that for me is one of the biggest messages for parents that are watching this, as well as for teachers. And on the other hand, I love the idea that you and Goldie actually curated and have these family viewings. And my dream is that when the children watch the film festival back in their homes this year, is that the family sits together, watches these films, and debates and discusses the issues. That's the real learning.
Example, there was a time when we realized that Ranveer was getting a little bored of simpler plots. So we realized that Ranveer liked slightly complex plots more. And which meant, though he was not 13, so just under 13 was not providing that platform for him. So then what we did was there were certain films that were above his age group. So what we did was those were the movies that we sat together as a family and saw them together. That, okay, there is going to be something in here which is not age appropriate. Hence, we are going to do this together. We are going to see what is not age appropriate and tell him that, okay, this is not age appropriate. This is the reason why. But because what was engaging him was the more complex plot, which came with movies that were meant for slightly older age group. So this is the way we found a way out of it, was to sit together as a family and watch the movies that were not age appropriate for him. We did that together. So, hey, is there bad language? Great. We are listening to it together. You're listening to it with your parents, where we tell him that, hello, son, this is the language. It's being used here for such and such emotion. But this is not something that you use in real life with people. So then because you know what? Children are going to do a couple of things, and then you need to tell them that where's the place, it is not okay to do it. There will be places where you will use a bad word, but you need to be very clear about where you're not going to use it. And, because there cannot be, like I said, policing about things and a black and white situation. There are going to be grays. One of the movies that we had seen was We Got Zoo. I think that is one of the movies that I remember seeing with Ranveer, and it was not age appropriate, and he was much younger when we saw it. But that movie, he loved the movie, and there was so much of discussion that we had, where they lose their mother and how the children come together, and there were so many complex emotions, and there was a different kind of a family atmosphere, and how they save a zoo, and how the family comes together, and how the various age group of siblings, how they kind of bond together. So it was such an amazing talk that we had after we watched that movie. And we were just so glad that we did not, because maybe there was a one scene or something, that as parents, when you're sitting over there, maybe you can forward it and you can just talk about it. But the major plot of the film was so amazing for him, and we had such a fruitful discussion after that. As an example, I just thought I could share.
In this example, you've highlighted two very important things in your own very simple way. The biggest and the most important gift as a parent we can give our children is quality time.
Ah, yes.
There's nothing more important than we can give our children. And for you, the family film viewing experience was a great reason, right? And the other one, the maturely with which you understood the fact that Ranveer does not relate to, smaller plots, but watch the films of a higher genre with him. I think that whole bonding which comes out is quite phenomenal. And do you realize this is one of the biggest missing factors with multiple screens today? Because everyone is on their own screens. That whole idea of a family viewing time is kind of outdated. And let's just hope that people who are watching in share the message that IKFF should be watched with the entire family, sitting together and debating and discussing these films. And 45 minutes has just flown, Sonali, and I have no idea how the time flies talking to you. And I'm sure you've heard this before as well, but it's been such a pleasure.
My pleasure.
And thank you very much, first of all, for being a part of the IKFF jury. And we're genuinely trying to make an effort with all of us. You mentioned some time back that I have a great team. I have a fantastic team. Our creative director, artistic director is Neha. Our curation head is Anne, right? And can you believe it? It's been 9 months now that we are working on the festival curation.
No,
so my team works for so long.
Sorry, I would big shout out to them, Anne and Neha, and you also, Sultan, because what you guys are doing is amazing. And as I said, that it's about watching them together. The reason why I'm on the jury is because last time when my son was on the jury, I did watch these movies with them. A lot of times parents might think that these are children's films. Why should we be seeing them? But it's not just that. There is a lot of depth to it. And I would say I was very surprised at how mature children can be and their voice can be. And I think as parents, and especially as parents who are straddling the two generations, because in this era where information is at their fingertips of the kids, and they are just literally every 3 years, it's a new generation. So during our parents' time, we were just the next generation, but within our time, we are literally have like some 3 generations going between our kids and us. So I feel as parents to keep in touch and to keep to be current with what are the topics that are going on. I think it's an amazing way to sit with your kids and watch these movies. So we understand how today's young minds are thinking, how they are looking at things, what are their issues, what is actually bothering them. We as parents need to adapt and to learn new things. And I think this festival, we can learn as much as the kids will learn.
So thank you so much, super mom, author, actor. It's been an absolute pleasure having this conversation with you. And for all those who've tuned in, November 20th to December 20th, the world's largest children's film festival, IKFF, will be on the KRAYON app. You can download it both on Android as well as on iOS. We've curated 150 of the best films made for children in the past year in 40 languages in 40 countries. And would be great to have a lot of you downloading and watching this festival and encouraging our efforts. We've really gone ahead and put in a lot of effort. And thank you, Sonali. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting up with you.
Thank you, Sultan. Thank you. Thank you to your team and Neha. Thank you to all of you. And I'm really looking forward to watching these movies.
Absolutely. Thank you, and stay safe and good health to you, Ranveer, Goldie, and all your loved ones.
To all of you too, stay safe and looking forward to this.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.